You are Locked On Nuggets POSTCAST, powered by Mile High Sports, part of Locked On Sports Denver on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Oh, Nuggets Nation, what is going on, everybody? And welcome on into a afternoon installment of your Locked On Nuggets POSTCAST. I am your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. And if you're watching on YouTube, appreciate y'all as always. Do me a favor, hit that like button and smash that subscribe button. That way you guys never, ever miss an episode of your Locked On Nuggets POSTCAST right here on your Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. It is a tough loss this afternoon for the Denver Nuggets as they fall to the reigning defending Boston Celtics 110-103, your final score. Denver had their chances, had their moments, had their opportunities, and empty possessions late, sloppy play late, a bad Russell Westbrook game ultimately does in the Denver Nuggets here this afternoon. So we'll break it all down here on today's Locked On Nuggets POSTCAST, but today's episode of your Locked On Nuggets POSTCAST is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. More from our friends over at FanDuel in just a little bit. But, man, close but no cigar. That is the mantra of this game. Denver got out to a sloppy start, but was able to rally in pretty impressive fashion there, specifically in the third quarter, and kept this game close throughout the course of the fourth. Had it within 5 at one point, and just unable to get the clutch three, unable to play good defense. Derek White, shout out Derek White, man. I mean, it's such a bittersweet feeling when you got Derek White, the Colorado kid, UCCS, CU Boulder, all that kind of stuff, popping off and being the one that's going to kind of hit a dagger in front of you. But tip of the cap, D White, I'm sure everyone that's from Colorado, loves to see him thrive, loves to see what he's doing. He's an NBA champion, but it's frustrating. Like I said, it's bittersweet when he's doing it against the Nuggets, right? And Denver's trying to mount this comeback. And, they ultimately finish this road trip with a 2-2 record, which is not surprising. I had said before the road trip, if you can go 3-1, you're feeling pretty good about their chances. But, if there's ever a game to kind of read into and have some like legitimate takeaways from, and kind of base the rest of your opinions on the season off of, this is the type of game, because this was a playoff type of environment between the Nuggets and the Celtics this afternoon. I mean, TD Garden was absolutely rocking. It had all the drama, right? Denver got down early. They could have easily rolled over and been buried, but they fought. I mean, like I said, they were in this game until there was, essentially a minute left in the fourth quarter, and you kind of knew it was over there with a 7-point advantage for Boston. But, a lot of takeaway from this game. Obviously, no Aaron Gordon this afternoon for the Denver Nuggets, which definitely impacts things. But there was also no Drew Holiday for the Boston Celtics. So I think those kind of canceled each other out. And, Denver was right there. And there's a couple of, keys that I want to get into here in regards to the overall complexion of this game and why it went the way that it did. I mean, the turnovers, Boston actually ended up committing more turnovers than Denver, which was late. But early in the game, the turnovers specifically in the first half were a problem. Denver finishes with 12. Boston turned the ball over 14 times. Obviously there's the free throw discrepancy. Boston shot 27 free throw attempts compared to Denver's mere 13. And we'll talk about more Jokic and why he doesn't get calls and all that kind of stuff later on the show, because that's not the main takeaway. But, it's nothing new when it comes to the Denver Nuggets. And, 3-point shooting, Denver actually did a decent job in kind of matching Boston in their attempts. They actually took more attempts than Boston did by one. Denver was 12 for 35, good for 34.3%, whereas Boston was 14 for 34, good for 41.2%. These two teams shot, identically percentage-wise from the field. Denver 41 for 86, 47.7%. Boston 37 for 78, 47.4%. But, to me, it came down to a couple of different factors. Just sloppiness late. Russell Westbrook not having a good game at all. One of his worst games of the season for sure. I mean, missed a couple of open threes, just turnovers, whatever it might be. And there was a few, it wasn't just Russ though. I mean, Jokic had a couple of sloppy turnovers. MPJ had a couple of sloppy turnovers as well. And Denver just was not sharp enough this afternoon. And I'm not surprised. I was texting with some of the guys, Ryan Blackburn, I was texting with before, a couple of my other buddies that, live and die with the Denver Nuggets. And I was kind of getting everybody's opinion on the game if they thought Denver could win this one. And everyone that I was talking to felt like Boston was going to win this game. And honestly, I felt the same way too. This was a little bit of a tried and true bounce back spot for Boston after losing their previous 2 games to Detroit and then obviously collapsing against the Cleveland Cavaliers on Friday night. Whereas Denver, was riding high after that big time bounce back win in their own right against the Detroit Pistons. So you felt like Boston was going to be able to get right here this afternoon. They have not lost 3 consecutive games in last season and so far this season. So Boston's really good at kind of snipping this stuff in the rear end and not letting the losses kind of compile. And that's why, they're among the favorites to win the NBA Finals this year, and try to go back to back. Boston is a very good team, a very deep team. But, the frustrating part for me, just looking at it, I guess, through the Nuggets point of view here, is they could have had this one. This was absolutely positively a game that the Denver Nuggets could have won and probably should have won. And frankly, to bring it back even further, if this is the team 2 years ago that won the NBA Finals, they do figure out a way to win that game. 100%. We've seen Denver be so good in the clutch, late in games, single digits, 1 possession, 2 possession. And like I said, no Aaron Gordon today, but I was talking with some people as well, and I said the only way that Denver is going to win this game is the trifecta, which is good games across the board from Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, and Michael Porter Jr. And you got that from Nikola and Jamal. Jamal had a rough first half, but really piled it on there in the second half. But Michael Porter Jr., once again, after a good game against Detroit, you out there, hello, MPJ, where you at? This was a game where they needed just a little bit more firepower, especially with Aaron Gordon out, to try to help push this thing over the edge. And it was a rough game for Michael Porter Jr. We'll talk about kind of some of the individual statistics for these guys coming up here in the second segment, but big picture thinking, playoff environment, playoff type of game, low scoring, defense, physical, and Denver just did not have their heads on straight. They did at points in spurts, but they were unable to seal the deal, which is frustrating because, as I said just a few minutes ago, this is the type of game that you can take a lot away from. And I understand that Denver wasn't at full strength with Aaron Gordon, but neither was Boston with no Drew Holiday and no Kristaps Porzingis as well. So it's one of those situations where, Jason Tatum was off. Jaylen Brown did his thing, but Derek White, and Al Horford for that matter, just really delivered gut punch after gut punch after gut punch. And I mean, Derek White, 17 points, today for D White. He hit 5 3-point shots. That's more than everybody else in the Celtics starting lineup combined. Jaylen Brown hit 2. Al Horford hit 1, and Jason Tatum was 1 of 7 from 3. So it was actually a bit of an off shooting night as well, I would say, from Boston, just considering that Tatum only had 16 points, didn't pop off. Jaylen Brown put up 22, which is good, but we've seen him go off for more. He put up, 39, I want to say, in that loss to Cleveland on Friday. And they can beat you a few different ways. Peyton Pritchard off the bench knocks down 3 threes, 3 of 5 from beyond the arc. Sam Hauser, he was 2 of 3 from beyond the arc as well. So, Boston just has these 3-point specialists, these tried and true 3-and-D guys that they can bring off the bench, which really helps provide them with some separation, not just in this game, but, in all of their games here with this kind of current iteration. So it's a frustrating loss. Denver falls to 39-22 on the year, now 19-13 on the road, whereas Boston improves to 43-18, and they're 19-11 at home. So it's a game that got away, and you got to be happy with the way that Denver fought and the resiliency that they showed throughout the course of the game. But again, this is one that 2 years ago, maybe even last year with KCP and company, that Denver, the Nugget fan has been a bit spoiled. This was a very, very winnable game for Denver, and they ultimately were not able to come up with the dub. And remember, if you're a regular listener to the postcast, I've talked about this time and time again now, that 8-game win streak or 9-game win streak, whatever it was, it's completely in the past now. Great. They didn't beat anybody. This road trip was going to be very telling, and they won the 2 games that you kind of expected them to win, and they lost the 2 games where you felt like, okay, they're probably going to lose one of these 2, if not both games were a coin flip. So you beat Indiana, you like that. You beat Detroit, you like that, but you lose to Milwaukee and you lose to Boston. I mean, when it's all said and done, which teams are going to come out of the Eastern Conference of those 4? Which teams have the best chance? It ain't Detroit. It ain't Indiana. It's Boston and Milwaukee. And then you mix in Cleveland and the Knicks, and we'll see what happens here with the rest of the Eastern Conference. But you had 2 chances against a legitimate title contender in Boston and a team that has a former MVP and Damian Lillard. Has Dame won an MVP? Now I'm curious. Has Damian Lillard ever won MVP? Yes. Oh, All-Star game. Never mind. No, he has not won a season award. But still, and I know it's not the Damian Lillard of old, but point being, you won the 2 games you were supposed to win, and you lost the 2 that, you want to try to at least steal one. And you would have felt really good coming back after a 4-game roadie on that plane, coming back from Boston, feeling good about yourself had you been able to figure out a way to win this game today. And unfortunately for Denver and their fans, that was not the case as they lose to the Boston Celtics 110-103. All right, let me hit my first break. When we come back, we'll continue along the conversation. Let's get into some of the individual metrics of these guys. Jokic had a nice game. Jamal, as I mentioned, popped off in the second half. But where is Michael Porter Jr.? What was Russell Westbrook doing? And Christian Brown turned in a pretty nice performance as well, as did Zeke Naji in his limited moments. So we'll hit a break, come back, and do just that right here on your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys. Let me tell you real quick about our friends over at FanDuel. When the game tips off, the NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get it on than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. With FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game, so even if you miss the opening tip-off or want to bet on a fourth-quarter comeback, you can stay in the action. And if you're looking for a bigger payout, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay. I love using FanDuel's live betting feature because it keeps every moment of the game exciting, whether I'm backing my team for a late game rally or picking a player to hit a clutch 3. I never feel like I missed my chance. Plus, the app is easy to use, and when you win, you get paid instantly. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. That's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. I came up just shy. I had a little change on the Nuggets when they were down in the late there or I think it was when Jokic went out, right around plus 850 odds. So it did not come through. But, that's what it is. I've won plenty of those bets, and you're going to lose some as well. But be sure to check out our friends over at FanDuel. It really does make the game more exciting. And let them know that Locked On Nuggets sent you. Okay, welcome on back into your Locked On Nuggets postcast. I am your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. Do me a favor, if you're watching live on YouTube, appreciate y'all. As always, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button as well. That way you guys never, ever miss an episode of your Locked On Nuggets postcast right here on your Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel. It is a 110-103 final with the Denver Nuggets unable to secure the victory on Sunday afternoon against the Boston Celtics. I also love these Sunday matinees, especially. I don't think they do them during football season. I think it's always a post-football season thing, but I do love these early games. And unfortunately, did not go well for Denver today, but I think they've got next Sunday, I want to say, another matinee against the Oklahoma City Thunder. So we'll see how that shakes out. And again, we'll go over the schedule at the end of the show. It's not easy coming up for Denver. I mean, it's tough sledding the rest of the way. I think you can count their quote unquote gimme games on one hand with their remaining schedule. So we'll break that down here on the show as well. But getting into the numbers, let's start with the good. Nikola Jokic, 39 minutes played tonight, 20 points for the big fella, 14 rebounds, 9 assists, 2 of 3 from 3, 9 of 15 from the field. So a Sombor double for Nikola Jokic. I mean, he was dialed into this game despite looking a little hobbled out there in the first half. About a minute or two into the game, I want to say, you saw him kind of limping and favoring one leg over the other, but he was able to gut it out and play the entire game, looked better as the game went along. And you'll wonder if that has something to do with the fact that, maybe his internal clock was a little bit off with the morning game or the early afternoon game rather. So he does finish, with just, typical Nikola Jokic fashion within spitting distance of a triple-double. And, he did his part today for sure. A couple of turnovers that he probably wish he could have back. Had 2 steals as well. So a nice game overall from the big fella. And a nice game in particular, a nice second half from Jamal Murray. He played 40 minutes this afternoon, finishes with 26 points. I think 20 of those points, if not 18 of them, came in the second half. I mean, he was dishing out the assists. Jamal had 7, also grabbed 6 rebounds. So you like to see that from Jamal, 2 of 7 from 3, and he hit his 2 free throws today as well. So, Jamal did his part as well in the second half to try to keep Denver in this game. Couple of bunnies, couple of contested layups and shots in and around the basket that he was able to get to fall, but it was not enough for Jamal today in the Nuggets. But Christian Brown as well with a team high 47 minutes this afternoon, and he turned in a great performance, the second leading scorer in this game behind Jamal Murray. 24 points for CB. He had 3 assists, 6 rebounds as well, 4 steals, a block. Just a complete game across the board from CB. And he was only 2 of 8 from 3, but the 2 3-point shots that he ultimately ended up hitting, were at key moments in this game that helped, Denver keep this one within, striking distance. And unfortunately, like I said, that they're unable to come up with the dub, losing 110 to 103. But, Christian Braun has been nice for this team. As I mentioned, the 24 points, the 6 rebounds, the 3 assists, the 4 steals. You can't ask for much more from Christian Braun, as he's really done a good job of, assuming this role as the starter in that starting 5 for Denver. And, the inverse of this as well, to kind of get to some of the negative, is, Russell Westbrook for a moment there kind of took his spot in the starting lineup. And not just based off of Christian Braun's performance do I think he deserves to be the starter, but this was a terrible Russ game. And he's just like I like Russell Westbrook, man. Like, I think he's had a good season, all things considered, especially with what recent history has been for him. But it was a rough game today for Russell Westbrook. He was a -3 in the box plus minus, 12 points for Russ. Was dishing out the assists, had 6 of those, grabbed 3 boards, 2 of 8 from 3, but a couple of terrible misses from beyond the arc. But also, just some sloppy play. Just couldn't hit a shot late. You saw Boston being very comfortable with giving up those shots to Russell Westbrook. And, just playing a little too fast, a little too aggressive, right? But you kind of know that's what you're going to get with Russell Westbrook. But, they just needed something more, especially with Michael Porter Jr., who we'll talk about here in just a moment as well, not being on the mark this afternoon. And Russ was unable to kind of be that third guy. That's what they were looking for. It was like, who is going to be the third option this afternoon for Denver? And it was Christian Braun to an extent. But, we'll have to see how they try to adjust here moving forward across the board. But I thought it was a bad Russell Westbrook game. Just all over the place. 5 of 13 from the field, 2 of 8 from 3, as I mentioned, with the 12 points. So nothing really cooking for him. Also on the injury front, Julian Strawther left in the middle of the second half with an apparent knee injury. At least that's how I kind of interpreted on TV. So hopefully Julian Strawther is A-okay. Hopefully it just a little banged up. Hopefully nothing too serious. He only had 4 points in this game this afternoon, so it wasn't like he was, wheeling and dealing and making an incredible impact in this game. But that opened up an opportunity for Jalen Pickett, who hit his 1 3-point shot, his only attempt of the game. And if you listen to me, that I'm on team Jalen Pickett. I think he should chip away and get some more exposure. And assuming that Julian Strawther is out for a minute, if that is going to be the case, at least a game or two maybe. Hopefully that's not the case, but just based off how the injury looked, it wouldn't be surprising if he's out for a little bit. That's going to open up an opportunity for Jalen Pickett to try to prove himself. And, as we're kind of getting down to it here in the regular season, if Jalen Pickett plays well and can kind of build off of his games, he might be able to earn some rotation minutes down the stretch and also in the playoffs potentially. So we'll have to see what happens there. But Michael Porter Jr., I was saving that. 40 minutes, 10 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, 2 of 6 from 3, 3 of 9 from the field. Just not good enough. Just not good enough. That's just especially, and again, if we're going to look at the salaries, right, one of the highest paid players on the team, a guy that was, a max contract player at one point, opted not to trade him at the deadline, had a couple of games before the All-Star break that were pretty good, had a good game against Detroit. But in a game where you're going up against the defending champions and you're within spitting distance and you have a chance, Michael Porter Jr. really needed to rise to the occasion, because we know that when he is on, he can change the complexion of a game like that in the blink of an eye. He can go up and down the court, 3 6-point swing. And you saw Denver go on a 10-0 run there, and I want to say that was the third quarter. And it felt like, okay, momentum's coming, but then it just all kind of fell flat. There was an inerrant Michael Porter Jr. kind of pull up 2 there with a couple of minutes left in the fourth quarter where Denver really needed to have a bucket. Contested shot didn't go in. And so you just need more from Michael Porter Jr. I think that's the simplest way to put it, is you just need more. And you love that game against Detroit. Let's pull it up here real quick. What did he put up against Detroit? 28 points, 10 of 15 from the field, 6 of 7 from 3, 9 rebounds. Right? Against Milwaukee, though, almost virtually the same numbers here. 12 points against Milwaukee. 10 rebounds, which you like, so a double-double there. But the 3-point shooting, 2 of 11. Today, 10 points, 2 of 6 from 3. It's just not good enough when Michael Porter Jr.'s role on this team is to provide that explosive offense that we've seen. It's not like it's gone. It's just you need it in a game like today. And it just wasn't there for MPJ. Just a rough day across the board for Michael Porter Jr., which, again, like I said, is nothing new. But if Denver wants to be a championship team, and after this loss, it tells me that, they're going to – I'm not saying that they can't, but, you've seen it now against Oklahoma City earlier this year in the first game. You saw it against Boston. You've seen it against the Knicks twice. You saw it against the Cavs, right? Like, Denver has not done a great job of beating these elite-level teams in the NBA this season. So where do we go from here? It's just another game. We'll talk about the schedule here coming up in just a moment, but it's a frustrating loss for Denver, a game that they could have won. I'm not going to say that they should have won, but a game that they absolutely positively could have won, and they were unable to do so today, losing 110-103. All right, let me hit my final break. When we come back, we'll put a bow on the show, a couple of closing thoughts on the game, and a look at what's coming up for the Denver Nuggets here moving forward throughout the course of this season. As I always like to say, I'm the host of the show, but you, the fans, the listeners, are the ones that help me drive the conversation. So if you've got any thoughts, comments, questions, whatever it might be, go ahead and drop those in the comments section. We'll come right back and do just that, talking some Nuggets basketball right here on your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Back in just a moment, folks. All right, you guys, let me tell you about our friends over at DoorDash real quick, because NBA fans, get ready. They swoosh, you save. Thanks to Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you score a huge deal the next day. It's simple. When any player scores 50 or more in a game during the 2024-2025 NBA regular season, Dash Pass members get 50% off of an order, up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Here are a few ways that you can take advantage of this deal. If you want a game day feast after an epic 50-point performance, celebrate by ordering wings, pizza, or burgers from your favorite spot delivered to your door. Also, whether you're staying up late at night watching highlights or just need that midnight snack, use Dash Pass to grab something delicious while saving big. Sign up for Dash Pass and be ready to save. When any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members get 50% off any order the next day, up to $10 off. Just use promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have an active Dash Pass account. Terms they do apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. I'm an active DoorDash user. Everyone loves DoorDash in this day and age, right? It's actually nice here in Colorado this last week, but the week before, it was a DoorDash week when it was crappy weather. No one wanted to go outside. So be sure to check out our friends over at DoorDash and let them know that Locked On Nuggets sent you. Okay, welcome on back into your Locked On Nuggets postcast. I am your host, Aniello Piro. You guys can follow me on social media at Media by AP. Also, do me that favor, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button here if you're watching live on YouTube. And if you're listening on the audio feed, come on over to YouTube, man. The Locked On Sports Denver YouTube channel is where it is at. We've got Nuggets during football. We've got Broncos and Buffs, and we've got some Rockies post-game shows to do here as well, coming up in about a month or so with baseball season on the horizon. But today, it is a 110-103 loss for the Denver Nuggets. They were playing from behind virtually the entire game here today, outscored 32-20 in the first quarter. Then they lost the second quarter by a point, 29-28, and then turned in a strong third quarter, 29-22, before falling behind once again in the fourth, 27-26. And the fact that Denver did not score a single, or the fact that Denver did not have a single 30-point quarter today, I think kind of shows you, just what Boston was able to do to kind of disrupt them. You saw Jokic with the scratch, the blood on his arm. That's nothing new. He doesn't get the same foul calls that other NBA superstars do. I'm not trying to moan and groan, but it's also just a fact of the matter. I mentioned it earlier. Boston, essentially doubled up, if not more, Denver on the free throw attempts. Denver only had 13 free throw attempts. They also didn't hit them at a high rate, 69.2%. And Boston ended up having 27 free throw attempts. They hit 22 of those 27. So, you can look to that as well. Denver got, beat in the rebound battle today, 45-38. The steals, Denver actually won that as well. But, the turnovers, even though Boston finishes with more than them, Denver was only able to get 15 points off of the 14 turnovers rather, but still early in the game, it really helped create that separation for Boston in this one. And, fast break points, Denver did not get out and run today, only 10 points in transition in the fast break for Denver, which is pretty uncommon. And they also got killed in points in the paint, losing that battle 44-38. I mean, fast break points, points in the paint, and 3-point shooting. Those are the three kind of denominators that I look at when it comes to a win or a loss for the Denver Nuggets. And the fact that they lost 2 of those 3 categories, they basically essentially tied, Boston also won the 3-point shooting today. I was looking at the field goal percentage there. That kind of sums it up. Boston led by as many as 20 in this game. Denver had a 1-point lead at one point early. That's it. That's the story of the game here today. And again, you tip the cap. You're excited about the way that Denver was able to fight and not just roll over. But it's a wins and loss league, right? You are what your record says you are. And this is going to go down as a loss for Denver. No moral victories, especially for a team that is not, young and developing. They've won an NBA championship with this core. They know what it takes to be the best, to beat the best. And that's been a theme throughout the course of the season. Boston, Cavs twice, Knicks a couple of times, Thunder in the first game of the year, against these upper echelon quality elite teams in the NBA. The Nuggets have not fared well this season. That's just the fact of the matter, folks. So let's take a look here at the upcoming schedule before we get out of here. Interesting game. Denver will come home, I believe, for 2 in a row. Yep. They'll play now on Wednesday. So a couple of days off, almost like 2.5 days off. I know they played today, right? But it's an early game, so you'll get some extra recovery time there on the body. So nothing on Monday, nothing on Tuesday, and they'll come back on Wednesday to take on the Sacramento Kings, who are fighting for a playoff spot, and the Phoenix Suns, who are fighting for a playoff spot. So you need Denver to win both of those games. You really do. And they should. They had a tough loss earlier this year to Sacramento, but that's a game that Denver should probably win. And again, Phoenix is a bit of a mess right now. So you like to see Denver try to get back on track with this one. And then it gets tough again, folks. A week from today, on the road at Oklahoma City, 11 a.m. Mountain Time tip-off, and then Monday night again against Oklahoma City. I mean, after the 2 home games against Sacramento and Phoenix, take a look at this schedule. The following 4 games are just brutal. 2 on the road against Oklahoma City, and then home for a quick little 3-game homestand against Minnesota, the Lakers, and the Wizards. So, you expect them to beat the Wizards, but Oklahoma City twice in a row, Minnesota and Los Angeles, all those in 4 consecutive games. We'll see. You'll take 2 and 2. You want 3 and 1. That's what I said about the road trip. But let's not get too far ahead of ourselves here. Let's see Denver go out there and take care of business on Wednesday against Sacramento, and then hopefully on Friday against Phoenix. But disappointing game, whichever way you slice it. And we'll see how it goes. Fernando here in the comment section. What's going on, my man? They were down Drew and Kristaps, and we still lost. Wasted opportunity. I agree. And look, Denver was down Aaron Gordon. Right. So, and I know Gordon's been, hurt throughout the course of this season, but it is a wasted opportunity. A game that Denver was very much in, a game that Denver very much had an opportunity to seal the deal with and pull ahead and try to, have a feel good win coming back home with a 3-1 record on the road trip. You'd feel really good about that. But it's a loss. That's just kind of where we're at, 110-103. So it is what it is. But all right, that is going to do it for me on this afternoon's installment of your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Thank you guys so much for tapping in. Do me a favor on your way out, hit that like button, smash that subscribe button if you may. That way you guys never, ever miss an episode of your Locked On Nuggets postcast. You can also follow me on social media at Media by APA. Disappointing loss. Couple of days to reflect before Denver comes back on Wednesday to take on the Sacramento Kings. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday afternoon, the rest of your weekend, folks, and we'll talk to you guys on Wednesday on your Locked On Nuggets postcast. Have a good one, folks.